Chapter 941. Equipment Competition. 7 days of the Spring Festival passed by in a flash. It was as if every player in Happy was an employee. After 7 days, they returned to the internet cafe one after another. The two students, and Wen Yi and Luo Ji, rushed over simultaneously. As for how these two youths told their families where they were going, this type of gossip was of little concern to Yi Shu. February 1st. On the 10th day of the lunar calendar, the first pro match after the Spring Festival would begin. This was the so-called New Year's new atmosphere. On this day, Glory players witnessed the birth of the first level 75 silver equipment. Silver equipment was a luxury that normal players could only dream of. However, it was also the one thing that they loved to hear about and keep their eyes on. Towards the various colors and types of silver equipment in the pro circle, many players knew about the various colors and types of silver equipment in the pro circle as if it was their own. The first piece of silver equipment upgraded to level 75 came from Team Samsara. Joe Zakai, Cloud Piercer, Left-Hand Revolver, Shattered Frost. His reputation as the number one player in Glory continued to be solidified through all sorts of means. Joe Zakai and Cloud Piercer had once again attracted lots of attention and zeal. This was probably the reward for having the first upgraded piece of silver equipment. Since the first piece of upgraded silver equipment had appeared, the others wouldn't be far behind. Moreover, they had been stuck at level 70 for so long. As for the next step in upgrading silver equipment, the big clubs must have already made sufficient preparations. As for whether Shattered Frost really was the first piece of silver equipment that got upgraded to level 75, it was uncertain. The silver equipment in the Alliance had a sudden breakthrough. As for Happy, their side had also finally made a slight breakthrough. With lots of information on hand, Luo Ji started researching how to upgrade the Myriad Manifestations umbrella. Yi Shu had lots of available information on the Myriad Manifestations umbrella. After handing it all over to Luo Ji, the research speed became quite satisfactory. Everything, except for one crucial component, was ready for the level 60 upgrade. Luo Ji solved the problem and decided which of the two materials should be used. February 1st. The day the first level 75 silver equipment appeared in the pro circle, the Myriad Manifestation umbrella was also upgraded to level 60. As for the stats, additional stats, and form transformations, everything was perfect. During the next few days, Wei Chen shamelessly fawned over Luo Ji, egging him to hurry and calculate how to upgrade his Death's Hand to level 75. This will probably be an absolute advantage when we face Excellent Era. Wei Chen's face was serious, pushing the importance of upgrading his Death's Hand to maximum priority. Of course, this wasn't completely without reason. From the looks of things, the progress of Excellent Era's silver weapon research was rather unsatisfactory. Yi Shu and the rest knew this because they knew that Excellent Dynasty's level 75 wild boss hunting wasn't going well. Their poor harvests were also due to Happy. This was extracting firewood from under the cauldron, diminishing Excellent Era's opportunities to research the upgrades of their silver equipment. If not for the recent special events and activities, Yi Shu and Co. would have confidently said that Excellent Era's chances of upgrading their silver equipment to level 75 was 0. Silver equipment that could be utilized in the Pro League required various materials from the heavenly domain. Materials from the normal server would be unusable. At most, they would be able to serve as substitute materials. Their regimen also included causing trouble for Excellent Dynasty, even if they couldn't steal the wild bosses for themselves. This was because they did not wish to see Excellent Era holding the equipment advantage when they faced off. As long as they could get rid of this advantage, it would already be a huge success. If the new update had not been released, they would undoubtedly not have had this kind of opportunity. This was the so-called uncontrollable opportunity. Happy had the experienced Yi Shu and Wei Chen watching over the team. They would obviously have this kind of opportunist reasoning. Wei Chen had transformed from being passive to active and had started to fantasize about Excellent Era not having a single piece of level 75 silver equipment while he swaggered on stage with his own level 75 silver weapon. However, researching level 75 silver equipment was not that easy. Luo Ji's calculations were done through crunching numbers and could not be completed with the snap of a finger. Luo Ji was currently unable to do the calculations for level 75 equipment because they did not have the basic statistics for all of the level 75 materials. If not, the Pro Circle would have been flooded with level 75 silver equipment a long time ago. A talent like Luo wasn't exclusive to Happy. The other big teams had these kinds of talents in their relevant departments too. Therefore, for upgrading equipment to level 75, the main people to rely on was Yishu and Wei Chen, since they had the most experience. Although Wei Chen asked Luo daily to do some calculations, he himself had also been working hard. He scrolled through the guild storage and looked at the acquired level 75 materials daily, determining which materials could be used to upgrade his Death's Hand. As of now, he had some ideas, but he dared not try them out. Although Happy had some materials accumulated, Wei Chen could not find the courage to be brave enough to try out these materials. In the end, Wei Chen chose to play it safe, and waited for Luo calculations. Luo was unable to figure out how to upgrade Death Hands, but he displayed his flair for the Myriad Manifestations umbrella. The plan for the level 65 upgrade for the Myriad Manifestations umbrella was confirmed within a week after coordinating with Yishu. This made Yishu emotional. If not for Luo there would be a total of 5 materials in 2 parts that would have been incorrect in this upgrading phase. This was more complex compared to the 2 specific materials during the level 60 upgrade. February 8. The second pro match after the Spring Festival. In this round, the number of level 75 equipment finally increased. Each big team obviously wanted to upgrade their team's ace character. As for the equipment on the character, the weapon would always be the top priority. On February 8, 4 god level accounts completed their weapon upgrades. Samsara's Cloud Piercer's right-hand revolver, Wildfire. Tiny Herbs Valkyria's Stardust Extermination. Blue Rain's Troubling Rain's Ice Rain. Tyranny's Desert Dust's Flame Fist. As for Lord Grimm's Myriad Manifestation umbrella, it was upgraded to level 65 on the same day. At the same time, Happy's development for other silver equipment became shelved. Yishu had intended to streamline the preparations and start making some equipment that he had knowledge of in order to begin equipping everyone, but now, level 75 orange equipment seemed to have fulfilled this purpose well enough. Although a self-made level 70 silver equipment was usually better than a level 75 orange one, making one required a lot of effort and materials. At the moment there was a temporary substitute, so there was no need to rush. The offline portion of the Challengers League that put one in a life and death situation was still 2 months away. It neither near nor far. When Happy finally met their opponents, it wouldn't be just a player team that they could easily trash. Everyone needed to prepare in advance, so other matters that required their focus and energy would be set aside. Time passed day by day. Starting from February 8, upgraded silver equipment within the Pro Circle started appearing. After the 4 god level accounts, the weapons of famed characters completed their upgrades one after another. Windy Rain's Magic Staff, Ravaging Wind, Crying Devil's Tachi, Ghost Killer's Seal, Swaksar's Scepter, Curse of Destruction, 3 Hits Claw, Blood Vanishing Soul, Peaceful Hermit's Scythe, Death Savvy, Dazzling 100 Blossoms Automatic Pistol, Hunting Seeker, Angelica's Plate Shield, Wall of Sighs. The names of these famous characters' equipment, especially the weapons in their hands, rang a bell for many fans. At this moment there was a list of completed upgrades. The fans only saw the list of names, yet they felt enjoyment. Most fans that took note of character equipment did not forget about the relegated Excellent Era and their 3 famous characters. 1 Autumn Leaf's Evil Annihilation. Life Extinguisher's Flashing Shadow. Dancing Rain's Devouring Sun. Had these renowned weapons completed their upgrades yet? The relegated Excellent Era was far from the Pro Circle. Recently, they did not have any Challenger League matches. Fans had no way of confirming the upgrades themselves, so they could only make wild guesses. In this wave of equipment replacement, there were a few non-eye-catching teams that suddenly attracted a lot of attention. Conquering Clouds, Parade, and Radiant. These 3 brother squads were currently placed 13th to 15th, unmoved from their current position. From the looks of it they were safer than the teams that were drifting in the relegation zone, but there was nothing more to it. They were the most boring among all the teams. For those with higher rankings, a suspense of whether or not they would be able to make it to the playoffs was added. For those with lower rankings, a suspense of whether they would be relegated was added. According to official statistics, these three teams' competitions received the least amount of views online. The number of tickets they sold for their home games were also not booming. As for these three boring teams, they actually made a small mark in the equipment competition this time around. The pace of their equipment development did not seem any weaker than the Powerhorse teams. One look and one could tell they had a pretty good material stock. Players saw the bustling and astoundment, but for the Club Guild players, seeing that these three teams finally showed their face, they clenched their teeth, and coincidentally shifted their hatred towards Lord Grimm. If this guy had not appeared and formed such a mysterious alliance, these three guilds would have been picking up lost goods. As a result of forming an alliance with Lord Grimm and becoming the most competitive group in the game, at their peak, they set a record and claimed half of the wild bosses across the heavenly domain. With this kind of harvest, their equipment started to become increasingly powerful. This resulted in teams that were stronger than them to burn through their stockpile, which led to the team's harvest being inconsistent. For example, Wind Howl and Misty Rain had good results this season, but they were losing in the contest for wild bosses in the online game. Misty Rain even had a record of 3 consecutive weeks of no harvests. With no materials collected, how were they supposed to upgrade their equipment? Even with the huge number of wild bosses, the wild bosses refreshing weekly and accumulation of materials, these teams wouldn't be too wealthy material-wise either. It's all Lord Grimm's fault. All of the teams that were distressed over equipment upgrading agreed that Lord Grimm was the root of their problem. Chapter 942. Royal Styles Tien Sen. Not being able to get wild bosses was definitely no small matter for a pro team. A team's strength consisted of the players and characters. Where did a character's strength come from? Equipment. Where did equipment come from? Wild bosses. In particular, after the new update and equipment underwent changes, if this situation lasted, not only would it be impossible to upgrade a character's equipment, even god-level equipment might fall behind. If the strength of the characters were no good, the team's performance would be affected. This vicious cycle might lead to an entire team's downfall. No team would sit and watch while this happened. Unusual times required unusual methods. Pro players usually wouldn't split their attention for the game, but with the game affecting the life and death of a team, this type of principle could obviously be changed. As a result, during this particular period of time, Glory nostalgically returned to when the Glory Alliance was initially created. At that time, the beautiful scene described by the PR from the various teams was now being displayed. Playing with your idol. 2/16, 3:38 p.m. Level 70 World Tree. In the fight for Forest Guardian Vich, Guild Misty Castle ripped through the chaotic battle between 3 guilds under the splendid cover of an elementalist. Among Guild Misty Castle was a pair of sharpshooters who left a deep impression on everyone. After this battle, the players participating in this battle would remember that the Elementalist should have been Team Misty Rain's god, Chu Youngshu, and that sharpshooter pair must have been Team Misty Rain's newly signed beautiful sisters. 2/16, 6:17. Sighing Ravine. In the fight for Sword Master KO, a brawler from Guild Howling Heights charged into battle. He was unstoppable. No one could get near him. His support allowed Guild Howling Heights to take down the boss. This invincible brawler must be the current number 1 brawler in Glory, Team Wind Howl's new core and god, Tang Hao. However, those with sharper eyes would have noticed that when Tang Hao's brawler charged into battle, an elementalist stood by his side, providing cover for him. After a brief analysis, this elementalist should be last season's best rookie, Zhao Yuji. 2/16 was already a Sunday. There were many wild bosses remaining on the final day of the week. Everyone just had fun enjoying the performance from these pro players. But on 2/17, the new week began. It could also be said that whenever a boss spawned every day, there would always be unstoppable characters scattered across the battlefield, deciding the outcome of the battle. From the classes of the characters and the guild, it wasn't hard to guess who each character was. In the Glory forums, someone even began keeping track of which pro players came with each new boss spawn. In that list, players found almost 80% of the players in the pro scene. It was only until Friday and Saturday did the number of pro players in the game start to dwindle. Everyone clearly still had to focus their attention on preparing for their matches on Saturday night. There were a few who did the opposite though. During these 2 days, when the vast majority of teams wouldn't distract themselves from the upcoming match, they ran to the game to fight for wild bosses. These types of teams were those who were not strong enough to reach the top, but not weak enough to fall below. They generally did not have too high of a goal for this season already. Team Royal Styles Tiansen was particularly hard-working during these 2 days. Team Royal Style was currently 12th place. Reaching playoffs at this point would require a miracle. Because of Team Royal Style's current rankings, many had forgotten that they had once been a glorious powerhouse. During the early days in the alliance, Tiansen's peaceful hermit had been as famous as the battle god and the king of fighting. At that time, the magician, the sword saint, the great gunner, and so on were still unknown cheerleaders. The champions of the alliance's first season had been born out of the match between Excellent Era and Royal Style. From that day forth, Team Royal Style was a team that stood at the top of the alliance. However, after that, they trudged along a downwards path from the peak. From being a contestant for the championship title in the finals, to being a team that always reached the finals, to a team that would need a miracle to reach the finals, times really had changed for Team Royal Style. There were many reasons for this, but for people nowadays, regretting these mistakes wouldn't change anything. Through their hard work and efforts, allowing Team Royal Style to return to their former glory was what could be done today. Tiansen was the flag character for Team Royal Style's new generation. However, after this flag came out, the speed at which Team Royal Style declined actually increased. Team Royal Style had fallen to a cheerleader team with no competition above and below them. Tiansen's peaceful hermit was an all-star. That was their only honor. Yet even this honor was on the brink of death. In the new all-star rankings, Tiansen and his peaceful hermit had been in 21st place. Behind him was Yang Kong and Zhao Ziyang, two typical grassroots players, as well as Zhou Yuan, who was ranked because of his special circumstances. Tiansen could not accept this placing. He himself was one of the famous Golden Generation players. Peaceful Hermit had once been one of the three gods, alongside the Battle God and the King of Fighting. How could this combination end up in such a low position? It wasn't like Tiansen wasn't trying hard. However, in Team Royal Style's current situation, weakness had permeated all levels of the team. The team wasn't performing well, and their guild was extremely weak. The update was said to be an opportunity for mid-tier and low-tier teams to make a comeback, but Team Royal Style could not grasp this opportunity. In the competition for wild bosses, Team Royal Style was even more of a cheerleader than they were in the alliance. Through the rewards from the several holiday events, Peaceful Hermit was finally able to get his silver weapon upgraded to level 75. However, Tiansen knew that the upgrading had stopped there. This weapon alone had emptied out Team Royal Style's stock of materials. In the following days, Team Royal Style was still just a cheerleader on the sidelines in the wild boss hunts. Tiansen truly felt a deep fear in his heart. Even when he had failed to make it to the playoffs, he had never panicked like this before. If this continued, Peaceful Hermit would certainly leave the stage of gods. Tiansen definitely wouldn't allow this to happen in his hands and in his generation. As a result, Tiansen began actively fighting in the game, assisting Guild Royal Heritage in their hunt for bosses. Even on Friday and Saturday, when the match date was approaching and the other pro players were preparing for it, he actually took this opportunity to attack again and again. On Friday and Saturday, Guild Royal Heritage had a bountiful harvest. Tiansen and Team Royal Style were in a slump in the pro scene, but in the game, they had complete control over the field. Don't forget that Tiansen was still an all-star player. He was the genuine #1 exorcist of glory. The team could not stop Tiansen's craze because they knew what Tiansen wanted and what he was working hard towards. So when Tiansen didn't participate in the final practice before the match, Team Royal Style did not say anything. The match was about to start. In the preparation room, there was still no sign of Tiansen. Now everyone felt like he was getting a bit too crazy. Even if Team Royal Styles couldn't gain anything from this season, wasn't giving up on the match too unprofessional? The team members discussed this in the preparation room. From their understanding, Tiansen shouldn't be like this. The expression on Team Royal Style's manager's face was ashen. He called again and again, but no one picked up. Helpless, he could only report it to his boss. Have you called anyone to look for him in his room? The boss asked. I've already told someone to do that, the manager said. The match was taking place in Team Royal Style's home stadium. Normally, after the players finished their last bits of practice in the practice room, they would rush to the stadium. Tien Sen not showing up to their final practice session wasn't a big deal. They thought Tien Sen would hurry over to the stadium before the match started, but there was only half an hour before it began, and Tien Sen was still nowhere to be seen. By this point, the teams had already confirmed their team lineups. Even though a sudden accident would allow them change it, if they did, they could not change it again. The rules weren't set only for Team Royal Style. That was just the way things were. Tien Sen was Team Royal Style's ace player. Until the very last moment, Team Royal Style didn't wish to give him up, whether that was for the match or for the fans, it couldn't be done. However, they couldn't get into contact with Tien Sen. In the preparation room, a player suddenly thought of something. He pulled out the laptop that he carried with him, opened it up, connected to the Wi-Fi, opened the game, took out the Glory card reader on him, and swiped his account card. Tien Sen is still in the game. This player was called Chong Janping. His relationship with Tien Sen was quite good. He finally found signs of Tien Sen still in the game. That guy? Did he forget the time? Tell him to hurry over. The manager rushed over to Cao Janping. He saw the screen and shouted. Chong Janping had already clicked on Tien Sen's character and sent a message to him. No reply. What's going on? Did something happen to him? The manager suddenly had a bad premonition. Chong Janping suddenly thought of something. He saw that Royal Heritage's guild leader was also online. Since Tien Sen wasn't replying, he messaged Royal Heritage's guild leader instead. If Tien Sen was doing something in the game, the guild leader would obviously support him with all he had. The two should be together. When Chong Janping messaged the guild leader, he soon got a reply. In battle. The guild leader replied. What time is it? What battle? Tell him to hurry over. The manager saw the reply and started flipping out. In his outrage, he even failed to think of calling the guild team to ask about Tien Sen's whereabouts. Glory, Heavenly Domain, Setting Sun Waterfall. The landscape was enchanting. It was a place where those in love like to swim around freely in. However, no matter beautiful the scenery was, once a wild boss spawned, a bloody storm would pass through. Under the setting sun waterfall, hidden warrior Alien was quickly approaching death. The battle for the boss reached a climax at this moment. A scarlet scythe whistled in the air, striking the fatal blow to Alien. At this instant, a spear stabbed forward, accurately blocking the scythe to the tank's side. It's already 7:42. Little Tien, you're still not going to head over? Don't you have a match to play soon? Yi Shu, who was controlling Lord Grimm, asked concernedly to an exorcist. Chapter 943. Just off by one strike. I'm going to attend the match. I only need 14 minutes, Tien Sen clenched his teeth and replied. What if there's traffic? Yi Shu said. It's at our home stadium, Tien Sen said. What if the elevator breaks down? From what I remember, isn't the Royal Style building is pretty old? Do you guys frequently perform maintenance checks on the elevator? Tien Sen was speechless. It wasn't the time to chat about this, but the problem was that he couldn't help but think about the loud elevator at Royal Style that kept on making noises whenever it went up or down. Just one more strike. Tien Sen gritted his teeth. However, this one attack had dragged on for 3 minutes already. Tien Sen hadn't forgotten about the match. He had calculated that there was more than enough time to kill this boss and hurry over to the match. How could he have known Lord Grimm's group would arrive midway, instantly complicating the match? Just one more strike and hidden warrior Alien would fall, but he was stuck on this one attack. Most players might not be able to imagine such a scene happening, but Tien Sen wasn't surprised one bit. Pro players had the ability to achieve that. The one in front of him wasn't currently registered by the Alliance, but no one would question his ability. The problem was that Tien Sen himself was being held back by him, which made him feel extremely unhappy. It was almost time for the match to begin, but he just wasn't able to make this one final strike. It was already 7:43. He started panicking even more when Yi Shu told him the time. Rushing to the stadium would take him at least 14 minutes. For insurance, he had originally planned to leave at 7:40, but this Cheng Yaojin who charged in mid-battle ruined his plans. Tien Sen hadn't been too concerned about this bunch. He knew that their capabilities were impressive, but he had already established such an enormous lead. It wasn't possible for Hidden Warrior Alien's aggro to switch over to another target at this point, especially with an all-star like him watching over the battle. But he didn't think that, not only would Lord Grimm's group not attack Hidden Warrior Alien and fight over the aggro, they even protected the boss and focused their attacks on him. Forcefully suppressing the opposing side from dealing damage was a rarely used strategy in boss battles because any team that could successfully accomplish that was undoubtedly the most outstanding team on the battlefield. It also required that team to have numerous safeguards. How could it be so easily done? When Lord Grimm's group prepared to employ this strategy, Guild Royal Heritage even started laughing. They felt like Lord Grimm's group probably thought of themselves as invincible because they could go on a rampage in the game without any resistance. This time, they had bumped into Tien Sen. Attempting a blitzkrieg against him was too naive. No. Reality met their expectations. How could Tien Sen be so easily killed? With the support of Guild Royal Heritage's elite teams, he easily defended against the pressure. Afterwards, Lord Grimm's group acted shamelessly in the eyes of Royal Heritage. Since they couldn't get the boss for themselves, they want to inconvenience us? That's too unscrupulous. Look at the other guilds. After seeing how Tien Sen controlled the flow of battle and established a steady aggro advantage, they had already packed their bags and given up. Only Lord Grimm's group still wanted to cause trouble for them after knowing they couldn't get the boss. They were too unprincipled. Royal Heritage's players were furious, but with their strength, they didn't have the ability to challenge Lord Grimm's group. Let alone Wei Chen, Tang Ru, Steamed Bun, Chao Yifan, Wu Chen, even Luo Ji was no longer the same as before after undergoing such a long period of pro-level practice. The skill level and experience of a god like Yi Chu and professional training methods weren't fake. If a random passerby was picked up off the streets, even if he could not be turned into a god or a pro player, training someone to become an expert better than normal players was absolutely not a problem. Luo Ji went through another period of bitter practice during the break. He could already be considered an expert. In the arena, he won more often than not. In any guild, he would be good enough to enter an elite group. In this PK, Yi Shu wasn't going to put any restrictions on him to make it easier for Luo Ji to control his summons, because Luo Ji could already figure out how to best bring out his strength. As a result, even though Lord Grimm's group was fewer in number, Royal Style couldn't deal with them. Neither side was able to do anything to the other, so the situation went into a deadlock. However, with Lord Grimm's group causing trouble, killing the boss obviously wouldn't go peacefully, especially with Hidden Warrior Alien attacking at inopportune moments. If not, with Tien Sen personally watching over the fight, Royal Heritage could have brought this situation to a close with a sudden burst of attacks. Royal Heritage grit their teeth, but they couldn't do anything to the other side. From their view, as long as they could kill this boss, they would bring defeat to those guys. At 7:40, it was only when Yi Shu asked Tien Sen if he wasn't going to the match did Tien Sen realize the despicableness of the other side's strategy. Lord Grimm's group wasn't just there to inconvenience Royal Heritage. Their eyes were still set on the boss. They saw a huge weakness in Royal Heritage. Today was match day. At 8 p.m. sharp, the match would begin. How could Tien Sen not go? As a result, they deliberately caused trouble, stopping Royal Heritage from killing the boss. Once the time came, even if Tien Sen's exorcist wasn't dead, he would still be forced to leave. 7:40 was when Tien Sen had planned on leaving, but he was unwilling to. Because Hidden Warrior Alien only need one more hit to fall. If their guild focused their attacks, that shouldn't be too hard to accomplish, right? But they couldn't do it. Tien Sen was the other side's main focus. Whatever methods the other players wanted to use were easily seen through by the other side. Hidden Warrior Alien stayed strong with only his final breath. He simply refused to die. His attacks in a red blood state killed many of their Royal Heritage players. What was even more infuriating was that the equipment dropped by these players were actually picked up by a ninja from the other side. That ninja was like the wind. He charged into Royal Heritage's troops to pick the equipment up, and no one could stop him. And just like this, in order to make that final strike, Tien Sen busied about for 3 minutes. During these 3 minutes, he was pretty much just fighting with Lord Grimm's group. Let alone striking the boss. If he wasn't careful, he might be the one to fall in the end. It's 7:44. In the blink of an eye, a minute passed. Yi Shu reminded Tien Sen again. The ability to report the time like a bird was the greatest blow to Tien Sen. The more time that passed, the more panicked Tien Sen became. 7:45. I'll have to go then. This is the final minute. Tien Sen wanted to find an opening in this final minute, but Yi Shu's group had lasted for 4 minutes already, so how could they easily expose an opening in this final minute? Of course not. This opening would have to be created by Tien Sen. Tien Sen no longer had a way out. He decided to put his all into this fight. If an opportunity appears, attack. These were his final words towards Guild Royal Heritage. He wasn't sure if he could make the final blow himself, but perhaps he could create enough of an opening to let the others in the guild complete it. If that happened, the boss would still be theirs in the end. Tien Sen's exorcist suddenly leapt up. Before his scythe could start swinging, a bullet was fired. Lord Grimm's weapon would be a spear, then a sword, and then a gun. Tien Sen wasn't sure what to do, but this time, Tien Sen wasn't planning on running. The scythe in his hands made 3 scarlet slashes. Boom boom boom. The 3 anti-tank missiles fired by Lord Grimm were sliced apart. Tien Sen's exorcist flew out of the smoke directly towards Lord Grimm. He wanted to use this type of method to forcefully create an opening in the protective circle around the boss. A cold light flashed. Soft Mist Spear arrived with a circle swing. She wanted to throw Tien Sen's exorcist down to the ground. Tien Sen reacted quickly. His scythe swung again, knocking Soft Mist Spear aside. At the same time, he didn't ignore what was ahead of him. After his scythe blocked Soft Mist Spear, he swung it down, deflecting the circle swing from Lord Grimm as well. In that one leap, Tien Sen was able to complete 5 attacks. Scythes had an attack speed advantage over spears. In his hands, the scythe danced without restraint. He broke through all of these obstacles and was just about to reach Lord Grimm. At this moment, Lord Grimm moved to the side, and Tien Sen saw a hidden warrior alien punch. A Chi Master's sky-piercing strike blasted straight at him. Those guys had actually coordinated with the boss. This attack was a Chi attack and couldn't be blocked. He had already reached this step. He could only take the blow. His exorcist opened his hands and a talisman paper flew out. This was a special exorcist talisman. A talisman could immediately release a skill. This time, right when the talisman was thrown out, pa-pa-pa sounds repeatedly sounded. At Lord Grimm's side, Steam Bun Invasion had used an inject poison. Before the talisman skill could be released, thousands of holes punctured through it, making it fail. This was the greatest weakness for exorcist talismans. When a talisman paper was thrown out, if it wasn't protected, the paper could be destroyed, which would be equivalent to interrupting the skill. And then, there was no and then. When Hidden Warrior Alien's sky-piercing strike hit, Tien Sen's exorcist was blown away. Another part of the battle had passed. Who would have thought that, after Tien Sen had dispersed the anti-tank missiles, he had thrown an exorcist talisman into the air. Brilliant light blossomed from it. Exorcist talisman, flying meteorite. Sparks filled the air. A meteor, dragging a tail behind it, descended. Tien Sen let out a victorious smile, but soon afterwards, he saw Lord Grimm suddenly lift his weapon. That umbrella opened up and Lord Grimm strolled over to the boss and protected him. The falling meteor crashed into the umbrella. The boss looked like he was completely unaffected. How treacherous. To think you hit an Exorist talisman. Lord Grimm lifted up his gaze, appreciating the beauty of the flying meteorite. 7:45. In the end, he still didn't forget to remind Tien Sen about the time. Chapter 944. Training. It's 7:45. This sentence did more damage to Tien Sen than any skill. No matter how much he wanted to continue, Tien Sen had no choice but to log out of the game. After all, he was Team Royal Styles captain, Team Royal Styles ace, the one that carried his team on his shoulders. His sense of responsibility wouldn't allow him to miss Team Royal Styles official matches for any reason whatsoever. Tien Sen's exorcist finally stopped moving. This was what would happen when you force logged off in combat. An online character that was under no one's control was bound to be trampled over by others. Right now, it was still the target of the boss's aggro. Hidden Warrior Alien continued to charge at Tien Sen's exorcist. This seemed to be exactly what Yi Shu and Co. wanted. After Tien Sen's exorcist was killed, the aggro would be washed from him. If the aggro was washed from an all-star level player like Tien Sen, then washing it from the other members of Guild Royal Heritage would be a piece of cake. Hidden Warrior Alien was like the flash of a blade, appearing right next to Tien Sen's exorcist. A fist swung out and the claws on the back of that fist stabbed into the abdomen of Tien Sen's exorcist. It was then that the members of Guild Royal Heritage suddenly moved into a fan-shaped attack formation, throwing out every possible skill they could and blasting it at Hidden Warrior Alien. Tien Sen might have had to go offline, but Tien Sen's departure might give them some form of opportunity, so Tien Sen had specially informed them of this before he logged out. In this moment, the admiration Royal Heritage's players had for their captain was endless. He was their god. An opportunity had appeared as expected. Ha 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 ha, you've miscalculated, Royal Heritage's players laughed wildly. It hadn't been easy holding it in, seeing the boss just moments away from being taken down. Ever since Lord Grimm had entered the competition for bosses, Royal Heritage went from being able to get a few scraps to becoming a bystander. Like any other guild, Royal Heritage loathed Lord Grimm, who never played by the standards and sent everything into chaos. Recently, God Tien Sen had been coming to the guild to guide them, allowing them to gain some spoils in the competition for bosses. Though, as an upstanding employee of the club, the guild leader worried that their team's performance would be influenced by their god's participation in-game. He understood Tien Sen's intentions upon seeing his strained smile when mentioning their team's current scores. Royal Heritage didn't have much of a chance to do anything of note in the current season anymore. The current retreat was to make way for a brighter future. Taking this update as a chance, Tien Sen came online often to obtain some high-leveled materials, hopefully grabbing them a chance of striking back. For those teams without powerful foundations, they could only use this effort to slowly accumulate strength. The continuous battles were all for victory. It wasn't until this boss that they had met the characters from Happy. They had suddenly all appeared, causing a storm cloud to appear over the head of Royal Heritage's guild leader, even though there was a god among them, helping. As expected, Lord Grimm's shenanigans had suppressed even Tien Sen, drawing things out until he absolutely had to leave. It was a good thing that with his departure, Tien Sen had created a game point for them. He might have not been here personally, but the competition for this boss had still resulted in Royal Heritage's victory. Royal Heritage's players had been wildly laughing at Happy's untimely loss, but when they looked carefully, they found that Happy's characters had never moved from their original places, and they weren't even looking over here. Lord Grimm's back was even turned to them and the others were all looking towards him, obviously listening to him speak. Some Royal Heritage players came over curiously. These people didn't stop them from listening into what Lord Grimm was saying. We were careless. Did anyone notice the flying meteorite exorcism talisman that Tien Sen threw into the air? Yi Shu was saying. Silence. If it was just one person who hadn't noticed it, that's excusable. However, we are a team, we should understand the situation on the field in its entirety, without any blind spots, using the support we have from one another. On this point, we don't do well enough. Everyone needs to keep this awareness of supporting each other in mind. We need to keep an eye of our teammates' blind spots at any given moment and fill in these blanks for them, allowing us, as a whole, to achieve a state where we have no blind spots. Quote. None of Happy's members were newbies anymore, naturally understanding the meaning to Yishu's words. They didn't need further explanation, they just had to make this a habit. Okay, Tien Sen has logged off. Lord Grimm only turned his view upon saying this, casually taking a glance at the Royal Heritage players, still excited over their boss kill. Then he said, no pro players would be on at this time, so let's end today's training here. Training? What did he mean? What was that? The Royal Heritage players who heard what Happy was saying were confused, but from Lord Grimm's tone, they had gleaned one scrap of information. Happy wasn't interested in anything the boss had to give. They seemed to be more interested in their exchange with Tien Sen. Tien Sen was deserving of his title of god, he had probably given these incomparably inexperienced newbies some good battle experience. The Royal Heritage players thought this to themselves with pride, but then froze. Battle experience? Training? No way. Watching the retreating figures of Happy, these players seemed to have realized something. Were these members of Happy here just to use the online pro players as practice? Was this their so-called training? To know the truth, this player ran over to catch up. However, because of his lack of efficiency in using stamina, he wasn't able to chase for too long. He did manage to hear some conversation though. Actually, we could have still tried to take that boss just now. It would be pretty hard to continue in that sort of situation, so we could have seen it as practice, someone said. No need. That would waste quite some more time. We should focus our attention on more specialized training. That was Lord Grimm's voice. Are we off to watch matches for theoretical learning again? Of course, these are all live teaching materials, we should use them to their fullest, Lord Grimm said with a hint of laughter. Speaking of which, it's a match day today, how about we watch a live stream? That's good, too. If we watch a live match, we can use the chance to have everyone take part in a live analysis of the battle situation, Lord Grimm said. No way, everyone else chorused. That was when the Royal Heritage player had used up his stamina and watched Happy's members leave and disappear into the distance. Team Happy was using the pro players who came in-game to help their guilds get materials as practice opponents. The Royal Heritage player felt like he had found out something big and hurriedly ran off to tell his guild leader. As expected, his guild leader was also shocked. However, after he recovered, what could he do about it? Get all the pro players to stop coming in-game for bosses to become Team Happy's practice targets? Yes. If it was the pros of other guilds, then sure. For our guild Royal Heritage, we hope that our god Tien Sen will always be here. It was then that God Tien Sen had finally arrived at the stadium. There was only a minute before the match was due to start. Try to be earlier in the future, knowing where Tien Sen had gone and seeing now that he hadn't been late. The manager had originally been fretting anxiously, but only said this sentence casually upon seeing him. Tien Sen was moved. He knew that this showed an immense amount of trust for him. He nodded with some force and swept past to get on stage. Did you get this, boss? The manager asked as he passed by. I don't know. Tien Sen was disappointed that he was incapable of answering this question. After logging out, he had rushed over. The battle in-game had definitely ended in these 15 minutes, but he had no idea how it turned out. Do your best. The manager realized that his question had made Tien Sen, who was about to go up to play, a little absent-minded and immediately regretted it. In reality, he hadn't thought Tien Sen would give him such an answer. Seeing this guy appearing only in the last minute, he had thought the other would give him a confident answer. Yet in the end, it was an uncertain one. Was it so hard even for Tien Sen to snatch bosses in-game? The manager, who didn't need to play, was rather free and called the guild department. He was obviously pleased to hear that the guild had taken the boss, but then he heard of Team Happy's attitude in this battle. Using Tien Sen as training? The manager was stunned. I think that's exactly how it is, the guild leader said. What on earth is this about? The manager was perplexed. Team Happy really was an anomaly. At exactly 8, the battle between the 20 teams in the 23rd round of the Glory Alliance's 10th season began. Yi Shu was completely correct. In this moment, no pro players would appear in-game. Under such circumstances, Team Happy wouldn't be conducting any practice. However, not long after the match was over, Yi Shu and Co. gained intel from in-game that the pro players had appeared. After this period of organizing intel, the smurfs that all the pros were using could be easily compiled by anyone who cared to take note. The names that had been reported had only just experienced losses or victories on the field. Now, they had come in-game with their different moods. This might be a new method of cathartic relief. Those who had won beautifully needed a place to relieve their excess energy, and those who had lost needed a place to release their frustration. The more active it was online, the better it was for Happy to train. Now, many pros had come in-game to battle, but where was the battlegrounds? New intel soon arrived. Barrier Mountains, Shadow Tactician San had respawned. A big level 75 boss. It had currently not been figured out by the players yet. Just to deal with bosses, there would be many high difficulty NPC deaths. And now, it was facing a difficult moment. It was about to face the true cream of the crop glory. Fortunately, this team wasn't in harmony at all. Chapter 945. A bit brutal. The guilds that had received Shadow Tactician San's announcement gathered there. No interactions were made among each other because everyone knew that the one in charge of the guild might not be the guild leader. All the players were wondering which characters that matched the team's classes were a pro player's side account. It was during this time, when San swayed onto stage. Among all the NPCs in Barrier Mountain, this boss possessed a mysterious identity. His class belonged to the Nightwalker category, and was proficient in all 4 classes. He made full use of a boss's op spirit. Before pro players entered the battle with bosses, countless of players had fallen under Son's dagger. There was no problem filling up a pile of A4 paper with the names of the fallen. Until now, not a single guild had a systematic way to defeat the boss. It was all completely done by pouring out blood and tears. During the week, Son was the last to spawn on stage among the 8 level 75 bosses. As for the former 7, due to the addition of pro players, 6 of the fight situation turned out to be very different. Since pro players would be intervening this time, what sort of situation would unfold? As every guild silently closed in on Son's spawning location, they all started to think about this matter. Barrier Mountain, Forest Peak. Son spawned in the mountains and woods, and had already been intercepted by 3 guilds. Blue Brooks Guild, Herb Garden, and Tyrannical Ambition. All 3 powerhouses had arrived. However, everyone knew that in today's fight for the boss, what determined their victory or loss was not the guild's strength, but the strength of the pro players who personally came to command. The forces of the 3 guilds formed a triangle, trapping Son. Waden, someone from Tyrannical Ambition, had only just opened their mouth to speak. Attack, players from Blue Brook Guild had already started to charge towards Son. See, the guy from Tyrannical Ambition still managed to finish his sentence. However, the change came before his words, so he felt as if his face couldn't hold his embarrassment. Young people, Lin Jingyan couldn't help but sigh as he watched the Blade Master rushing out from Blue Brook's formation. Blue Brook's Blade Master went straight towards Son to attack without the slightest sloppiness. Who else other than Blue Rain's Lu Hanwen had such energy and drive? However, before Lu Hanwen's sword struck, it was blocked by someone. A witch flew out from Tiny Herb's side on his broom. He jumped down midway, and waved his broom to attack 5 times continuously. As a result, Lu Hanwen's Blade Master was forced to change his target and ward off the opponent. It really is a world for the young, Lin Jingyan sighed once again. In a blink of an eye, Lu Hanwen's Blade Master and the witch from Herb Garden had already fought numerous rounds. The witch from Tiny Herb that was able to be evenly matched with Lu Hanwen was undoubtedly the genius pro player Gao Yingji. Gao Yingji didn't have the kind of personality where one would be in a hurried state to rush forward. But in this season, as a young and emerging genius, Lu Hanwen's performance in the Rookie Challenge was spectacular. There were too many people who were comparing Lu Hanwen with Gao Yingji. Speaking of technique, Gao Yingji, who was older than Lu Hanwen by 3 years, was more mature. However, if one was speaking of personality, even Tiny Herb's team captain Wang Jiexi sighed himself. If Gao Yingji had Lu Hanwen's spirit, then it would be great. Obviously, these words weren't spoken in front of Gao Yingji. Unfortunately, Gao Yingji still secretly heard it. In fact, Gao Yingji knew clearly what his flaw was. However, personality problems weren't easy to fix, even when he knew where the problem lay. However, Gao Yingji still wanted to try. He didn't want to let down the expectations of his seniors. As a result, Gao Yingji started to take note of Lu Hanwen. Not to copy, but to learn his energy and spirit. It wasn't Gao Yingji's style to rush forward and fight like what was done when competing for bosses. However, when he saw Lu Hanwen jumping out, he subconsciously felt the need to also have this kind of spirit. As a result, he also rushed out to attack. The 2 eye-catching youngsters from the league this season had already gotten into a brawl. Say, old Lin, we can't let those youngsters take all the spotlight for themselves. The one standing in the spotlight this season should be us. A Spitfire walked to the side of Lin Jingyan's brawler. He switched the magazine in his automatic pistol repeatedly, making continuous clicking sounds. Evidently, he was a guy who liked to fiddle with things when he had nothing to do. Being in the spotlight? Isn't that your speciality? Lin Jingyan said. Haha, you shouldn't be too humble. Let's hurry up, we can't let those little demons be too full of themselves. Zhang Jiali grinned. The automatic pistol under his Spitfire suddenly let out bright and rhythmic sounds as the bullets entered the barrel of the gun. He followed up and started attacking. Pa 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 pa. The sound of gunfire echoed repeatedly. The shots that were fired out were brilliant and varied, so there were all kinds of shots with special effects. At the same time, his left hand continued to throw out grenades into the air. In no time, flames covered a whole area. Even the silhouette of the San became fuzzy. When Zhang Zhao's 100 Blossom fighting style was brought out, people felt that this guy's retirement from before must have been a big part of his master plan. Amidst the splendid flames of the explosion, Lin Jingyan's brawler had snuck in. The two veterans of the league unfolded their extravagant raid on the two rookies. However, before the two parties could collide, a blue sword light suddenly lit up among the myriad of lights flashing from the 100 Blossoms fighting style. Although it was only monotonous in color, it seemed like it could completely swallow the dazzling light effects. Streaks of brilliance followed one after another, and it split apart the formation of those two old guys. Soon after, everyone saw large amounts of speech bubbles popping up. You two don't have any integrity. You're even willing to do this to the cute newbies. It seems like you only follow half of the virtue of respecting your elders and loving the young in tyranny, and it must be the former half because only that half would benefit you. Minnesota, compared to this giant speech bubble, the covering effect of your 100 Blossoms style is so weak, Lin Jingyan sighed. I have always suspected that the reason this guy never uses punctuation is because they leave too much of a gap, so the coverage wouldn't be able used to its fullest potential, Zhang Jiali said. Look, there's punctuation, Lin Jingyan said. The 6 exclamation marks have dropped to below his belt, Zhang Jiali said. The two veterans continued to ridicule, while battling against the guy who had just joined in. That person's identity was easy to guess, compared to everyone else. It seemed that such a big speech bubble already became the signature move of Team Blue Rain's Huang Xiaoshan. Can you two stop spouting rubbish? The reason I do this is because the online game has speech bubbles, but do they have it in matches? Do they, Huang Xiaoshan yelled. This guy is even telling someone else to stop spouting rubbish. I really want to die, Zhang Jiali said. Who wouldn't? Lin Jingyan spoke. They spoke to each other, while their hands didn't stop moving. In an instance, the three characters had exchanged numerous skills. Zhang Zhao's Spitfire had already moved to the back to support, while Lin Jingyan's brawler continued to fight with Huang Xiaoshan directly at the front. Although it was true that Huang Xiaoshan was a god at the peak of his career, he was still very cautious when he faced the two veterans teaming up. He didn't want to let the two open the formation of 2 versus 1 so smoothly, so under the excellent quality of his speech bubbles covers, he turned around with a triple slash. He weaved past Lin Jingyan's brawler, and wanted to fight straight on with Zhang Zhao's Spitfire. Their advance had only carried out halfway, when a character flew out diagonally. Like Gao Yingji, he also came from Herb Garden's troops. He was a witch riding on a broomstick just like Gao Yingji, however, his flight was rather crafty. This was to the extent that when he reached Huang Xiaoshan's Blade Master, he connected his skills at a critical moment. As a result, it looked like someone jumped up and slammed Huang Xiaoshan's Blade Master into the ground with his broomstick. Then a swish came as the broom swept again. Dust flew everywhere, and it almost buried Huang Xiaoshan's Blade Master under a mound of soil. Shameless, 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 shameless. You're all targeting me at once. 3 of you fighting one of me. Don't take revenge in the public just because you lost the previous match. Since Huang Xiaoshan, who was swept down, didn't need to proceed with any mechanisms, he managed to patiently put on all the punctuations this time in his speech bubble. It's only because you're too noisy. The witch wasn't going easy on him at all. 2 magic potions were thrown out, and Huang Xiaoshan's Blade Master was immediately trapped between skies of ice and fire. Huang Xiao*, let me save you. When Lu Hanwen noticed that Huang Xiaoshan's wasn't in a good situation, he knocked aside Gao Yingji's broom with his sword, and rushed forward swiftly to help Huang Xiaoshan. This is so embarrassing. Huang Xiaoshan, you should just retire and give your position to little comrade Lu. That's the truth, Zhang Jiali and Lin Jingyan sighed one after another. It's hard to believe how well coordinated you two are. After becoming teammates you two echo each other. Huang Xiaoshan wasn't weak. Even if he was going up against 3 gods, he wasn't that easy to be killed. Under his controls, the Blade Master turned over with a waning wind fading grass. A ray of sword light was drawn in a circle around him, and helped him avoid the 2 characters beside him. A rising dragon slash and sky-plunging blade followed like a sword immortal. The surrounding players were all flabbergasted at this point. Lu Hanwen and Gao Yingji, Huang Xiaoshan and Wang Jiaxi, and Zhang Jiali with Lin Jingyan. What sort of scene was this? This was just like the All-Stars weekend. Everyone forgot why they had come, they only wanted to be the audience, and seriously watch the people before them perform. As a result, a small team of people was able to secretly close up to this area without anyone noticing. Wow. When Wei Chen saw the group of pro players before his eyes, he immediately exclaimed with surprise, "Won't the contents of this training be a bit brutal?" It's a bit over the top, so don't feel like you're pressured and go up fearlessly, Yi Shu said. Nonsense. Since the contents are so brutal, shouldn't we change our equipment? Wei Chen said. If we lose the equipment that we're used to, our battle rhythm will change. I think it would be best if we didn't overlook these details, Yi Shu said. F***CK, then why did you tell us to go in without pressure? If you have the guts, you can go up and let them make you drop your myriad manifestations umbrella, Wei Chen said. Comrade Mo Fan, Yi Shu turned his head around. It was the first time in his life he had proactively communicate with Mo Fan before a battle. I have a serious task for you this time. If any of us happen to drop our equipment, you must snatch back our dropped equipment no matter what happens.